everyone, I'm Laura with Red Desert Violin, and today I'm going to discuss 3 very common left-hand problems and some ideas for correcting them. I'm going to go ahead and show you what the 3 problems are, that way you'll know if you have it and you'll know whether you want to finish watching this video or not. The first problem involves this little U shape in here and what I have named the mouse hole and squeezing the neck. So, when you're playing, you want a nice open gap in here, and you want to be very relaxed. You want your thumb to just be sitting there just so loose. And what happens is we start to squeeze. So that's the first problem. Second problem is what I call the S curve, and that's where we're trying to not squeeze the neck, but we still want something to prop our violin on. So instead of squeezing to hold the violin, we just turn and we make this nice little shelf for our neck to sit on. That creates all kinds of other problems. So that's the second problem, the S curve. Can you see that? Look for that in your mirror. Very freaky. And then the last problem is where our wrist is completely out here. And usually that's a result of having been threatened as kids from doing this, so we overcorrect. So that's the third problem. Alright, let's go back to the first problem, squeezing the neck. I really feel that the cause of this problem is a shoulder rest issue and not trusting your equipment and feeling like your violin will fall if you don't hold it. So you need to find the right shoulder rest for yourself, or find the right position of the violin on your shoulder where it feels secure. And that's just going to take a little work. I've got a video demonstrating a good way to get way up on your shoulder. One simple thing you can keep in mind from that video is when you're getting into position, don't hold the violin by the neck, because that oftentimes places the violin out front and it's not a good position. Grab the violin up here by the fingerboard. Some people say by the shoulders, but I don't like that because it puts fingerprints on my violin. This does the same thing, right like that. And then it gets it right square up on your shoulder in a very secure position. So you could try that, explore your shoulder rests. There's a zillion out there. There's going to be one that fits you perfectly. Maybe you're one who doesn't need a shoulder rest, and maybe just a homemade sponge is going to be right for you. But explore that, and that might solve your problem. If that's not the problem, then it's just a bad habit that you need to break. So a good way to break that habit is to play something easy, maybe one of your easy scales, or your Twinkle Twinkle Little Star variations, or something that's easy for you. And you're going to play it without your thumb even touching the neck. That forces you to be able to keep your violin up while you're pressing down with your fingers without using and cheating with your thumb. And it's torture, it makes you sound kind of bad, but it does break the habit. And then you could also try playing those same easy pieces while your thumb is just rubbing up and down the neck like that. And that introduces your thumb back to the neck, but there's no way you can squeeze and still move the thumb back and forth. So that's kind of a good follow-up exercise. Alright, and I just think awareness is probably your best friend as far as breaking that habit. The second problem was the S curve. Again, I think that goes back to the shoulder rest issue. If you eliminate that as the possible cause and you still have a problem with the S curve, you just need to break the habit. You can see how this has got a kink in my wrist. Instead, put your arm straight up, just as if you were going to punch something right up under the jaw. Like that. And then just turn like you're screwing a light bulb. Okay? And that keeps your wrist straight, but with a little twist, but the wrist is still straight instead of kinked. Okay? So just work on getting into that position without going into that habit. I don't have a magic cure for that one. Lots of practice in the mirror and awareness. The last habit, or last left-hand problem, is with the wrist being too far out here. That does many things. Well, immediately I want to start squeezing as well back here. But the worst thing is it pulls your pinky completely away from the fingerboard, so he's going to be slow and clumsy instead of being nice and having lots of dexterity, which he has when you're in the right position. So that's another one where you just need to be aware of it and look in the mirror a lot. And watch your row of knuckles here. This is really an important key. Please pay attention to this. The row of knuckles should be, at the very worst, should be flat and parallel on the floor. I wonder if I've got a marker that I can show you. Alright, I always have a line on my knuckle from explaining this to people. Okay, see that black line with my Sharpie? The line is flat against the floor. That's the worst it should be. It should not be pointing down to the ground, which is what it does when your wrist is in this position. Ideally, it should slant slightly up. Can you see how I drew the little arrow on my pinky knuckle? I do this on all my little kids, and I ask them to make their arrow point just up just a little bit. That gives Pinky a little extra length. He's stronger, he's going to have a good vibrato. So you might want to draw a line on your knuckles too and spend some time in front of a mirror. Those are the 3 most common left-hand problems I run into most frequently, and some ideas to fix them. I hope that they've helped you, and I will see you next time.